Mama's garden. One of the ways I can picture my mother most clearly is with her back to me, standing in front of the kitchen sink, light from the window shining round her head, scrubbing dirt out of her fingernails so hard it's audible. Because my mom loved to garden, but she hated having dirty nails, the fingernail scrubber, first an off-white one and later a turquoise specimen longer and wider than her index finger, lived by the kitchen sink year-round while she was alive. When you're a gardener in Albany, California, where the average temperature is in the 60s no matter the season, you don't get any time off. Mama used to joke that she didn't know where my sisters and I got our artistic inclinations from. While it's true that my oldest sister's vocal talents are a mystery, given the tunelessness of both of our parents' voices, Mama's artistic predilections were various and varied. She danced through high school, like my middle sister, and performed in various theatrical productions in her adolescence, like me. As an adult, despite holding at various times the titles of law student, corporate attorney, busy stay-at-home mom, and employment law specialist for the state of California, Mama's artistry shone through in the domestic sphere. She put on elaborate birthday parties and sewed and designed Halloween costumes and Christmas stockings. Her baking and dinner parties were well known throughout our Mormon congregation. Mostly, though, the art people knew her for was our garden. Mama used to say, frequently and occasionally directed towards other people, much to my chagrin, "Why would you plant vegetables when you could plant flowers?" She was a woman of strong opinions in general, but this was one of her core beliefs. She scoffed at mentions of environmental efficiency or price, which, to be fair, weren't real considerations in terms of produce living in Albany. Why would you plant vegetables when you could plant flowers? Why would you grow something you could get at the Monterey market for cheap when you could make the world more beautiful? Mama's plan to make the world in general, and our little corner of it in particular, more beautiful, was based on specific concepts for each space. The backyard, raised to a flowering splendor and a gorgeous lawn from the hellscape of wood chips and cement it was when we bought the house, was an English cottage garden. This was allegedly due to the cute mother-in-law unit that is the most prominent feature of the yard, though I think it was also influenced by Mama's taste in literature. I can hear my mom's voice again if I turn to any page in Jane Austen or peruse the slightly sillier stylings of Georgette Heyer. Mama was an Anglophile and a bibliophile, and she never did things by halves. Our cottage garden was designed around royal blue delphiniums and the pale pink concentric spirals of an Eden climbing rose. There were always supermodel skinny agrostemma, delicate, poppy-like baby blue eyes, and tall, sturdy hollyhocks. Mama carefully acidified the dirt around her hydrangeas so they would be periwinkle instead of the bold pink our clayey soil would otherwise have turned them. My favorite flowers, Love in a Mist, grew wild in turquoises and magentas in the back corner by the shed, but they haven't come back for a while now. The peonies, pink and fluffy and show-offy, haven't bloomed since Mama got sick either. They're too finicky for my dad's dedicated but clumsy touch. My dad loves flowers because he loved and loves my mother. Mama loved flowers because that was who she was. For the front yard, Mama took longer to settle on a design. Initially, she was fine with the way it was, even though the grass was a little shabby and the mimosa tree dropped fronds and flowers everywhere. In the bed under our front window and in the verge, she planted tulips every January. She chose sunset colors, pale orange and pink. She planted them every year without fail, buying them from Costco and filling our tiny fridge with big paper bags full of bulbs, because without prior refrigeration they wouldn't grow in the winterless Bay Area. No batch of tulips was ever as good as the first ones we planted together when I was 5, though. We called them the magic tulips, and some still come back every year, though they're somewhat squatter now, 15 years in. When Mama's tulips bloomed, passerby would stop and marvel. They were her pride and joy. The summer Mama was sick, one of her brain cancer presents, the purchases she made, extravagant and generous and ridiculous, that we couldn't bear to return, was 400 tulip bulbs. shipped to my sister and her husband in Virginia. When my parents visited them that fall, my dad spent hours on his arthritic knees, planting them. A couple of years before Mama was diagnosed, she began a transformation that was reflected in her plan for the front garden. Her feminism went from a facet of her worldview to a more active component of her daily life. Mama and I walked in the Mormons for Marriage contingent together at San Francisco Pride in 2012. She bought me slacks for wear pants to church day and wore some of her own. And the front garden got bold and rebellious. Unlike the charming blues and pinks in the back, her new garden, for which she had my dad rip out the grass and paid someone to chop down the trees she'd always hated, was red and gold and orange and purple-black. Paul, a gay Mormon man in our congregation and my mom's partner in Anglophilia and gardening, politely registered dismay at the new color scheme. But Mama was done with being quiet. We can't hear her anymore, though. My mom died almost 3 years ago now, and her garden has faded a little from its peak, though my dad ensures that it's still very beautiful. And soon we will probably lose it forever. My dad is remarried now and moved into a new house. Our house, the one with Mama's garden, is going on the market this spring when the roses are in bloom. This past summer, I had a party to say goodbye to the house, the closest of my friends that were in town. We ate our ravioli and salad, made with store-bought vegetables, in the garden because I wanted a proper goodbye to the art my mother left behind.